I'm a grown woman. I can do whatever I want. I'm a grown person. I can do whatever I want. Get it? Get it? Yes, everybody, I'm back again with my recommendations video, and this time around I'm looking at slut shaming. And what better book to kick things off than the #1 book on my list, which is Jack of Arts and Other Parts by Rosen. Jack Rothman is 17, is absolutely gorgeous, is out, is queer, is living his best life, is going to all the parties, and the students in his private New York school have labeled him a slut. Now, Jack doesn't care. Plus, a lot of the sexcapades that they've, attached his name to, he didn't really do it anyway. But when all these rumors get him a stalker who gets... Pom-pom! No! 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 Thank you. But when all these rumors gets him a stalker who gets progressively possessive and dangerous as time goes by, especially after Jack starts to write a sex advice column online on behalf of his best friend, Jack decides that hell no, nobody has the right and is going to be able to police his sex life, and therefore set out to catch or uncover the culprit. This book is sexy and funny and raunchy and very sex positive, and it's a great book to kick up the list. Second on the list is Fairytales for Lost Children by Diriye Osman. Now, if you've spent any amount of time on my channel, and I know that I have a lot of new subscribers, so you might not know this, but Fairytales for Lost Children is one of my absolute favorite books of all time. It's a collection of short stories that chronicles the queer Somali immigrant experience with a lyrical, bombastic use of language that never fails to make me smile and make me laugh. And the characters in this book love to have sex and are very vocal about it. From a young woman who goes to the sea to spend the night in the arms of a lover, to a young man who discovers the illicit delight of smoking with and fucking the help, to dance as a metaphor for sex, as an interpretation of the progression of a relationship from its start to the eventual heartbreak that follows, to a young woman who is pleasuring herself and finds home in who she is, a physical body and an incandescent spirit. This book is a celebration of sex and love, and I absolutely adore it. Plus, there's mental health rep, so this book totally works for the ableism prompts as well. And there's also, most of the characters are Muslim, so this also works for the theological fundamentalism / religious intolerance prompt as well. Trigger warning though, because there are some slugs used against the queer characters in this book. So gay, sapphic, and transgender characters. There are a couple of slurs, so just heads up with that. But like I said, I love this book, I adore this book, I worship at the feet of this book, and it absolutely has to make the list because I cannot talk about sex positivity and a push against slut shaming and not mention Fairytales for Lost Children. Now, the third book on the list, let me start off by saying that I have not read this book yet, but I found the idea of a book that was so utterly scandalous when it was first released. I find that idea, that book, very intriguing, and I'm of course talking about Little Cat by Tamara Faith Berger. Is it Berger or Berger? I think I'm going to go with Berger. Now, this book is a bind-up of 2 short stories. The first is Lie With Me, which details a very graphic and increasingly extreme sexual encounters of a woman who spends her nights picking up men at a bar. And the second book, The Way of the Whore, follows an introvert Jewish girl who starts working in the sex industry. This book is an exploration of female sexuality and pleasure, and according to Tamara, is basically porn if it came in a book form. Like I said, color me very intrigued. Now, moving from one sex worker to another, we have Michael Fan. Yes, everybody, I am talking about The Kiss Quotient by Hoang, where we follow Stella, who is brilliant and competent and amazing at her job and gets paid the big bucks because she is amazing at her job, who desires to hire an escort, a sex worker, to help her gain confidence and practice in the sex department. Now, I would like to state clearly that the fault was never Stella's. It's just that she has been dating assholes all this while who have never focused on our own pleasure. And that is where Michael comes in, because Michael rises to the occasion, comes through and delivers. And boy, does he deliver. And of course, there's the conversation about Michael and his work as a sex worker, how he's not defined by his work, and how there's nothing for him to be ashamed of for the service he provides. And like, that conversation was absolutely perfection to me. Also, Michael is half Vietnamese and is raised by his Vietnamese mom, and there's a lot of Vietnamese culture present in this book, which was also a delight to read. And Stella also has Asperger's, so this book also works for the fuck ableism prompt as well. Next up, we have Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi. Now, the first time I read this book, I was in awe, in absolute awe of the writing, of Akwaeke's writing, of the way in which they've created this world, the way in which they've presented these characters. I was blown away by the almost autobiographical bent to their writing. That was a union of what it means to be trans and what it means to be Ogbanje, and it blew me away. Now, for those that don't know, the Ogbanje, also known as the Abiku, is a being from most Nigerian cultures who is basically a child that has one foot in the leg of the spirit and one foot in the land of the living, of the physical. And as such, they are given to dying over and over and being reborn over and over again. Now, the Ogbanje in Nigerian cultures can either be the malevolent spirit that delights in seeing the tears and pains that said spirit causes, or can be more benign. Now, which type of Ogbanje is the Ogbanje in Freshwater? I will leave that up to you to discover when you finally read the book. Now, the reason why this book, though, is on this list is because of one of my favorite characters from the book, Ashugara, which is an element, an aspect, a being, a part of the entity that makes up the Ada. I was born out of the rape of the Ada, which at this point is why I would like to state that there are quite a number of trigger warnings for this book. Trigger warnings for rape, for sexual assault, for sexual abuse, for suicide ideation, for suicide attempts, for self-mutilation, for self-cutting, for depression. Yeah, there are lots of trigger warnings, but this book is absolutely beautiful and divine and was an amazing read for me. Utterly amazing. Ogbanje in this book also does represent having... It's a form of interpretation to multiple personality disorder, so this book can also work for the fuck ableism prompt as well. Next up, though, is The Score by Elle. Now, this is the third book in the Off-Campus series. I'd like to state that you can read this book in any order, although I love to read books in the right order so that I can have background information with regards all the characters that show up and their own past relationships. But like I said, this is the third book in the Off-Campus series, which is a new adult series by Elle. I adore this book. Like, this series totally convinced me to take up an interest in hockey, and that is saying a lot because your girl does not do sports. I especially do not do sports that involve men whacking balls with a stick. Is it a puck? I think it's a puck. It's a puck. I have zero interest whether they're whacking pucks or they're whacking actual balls with their legs. I am not a big fan of sports, but this book legitimately had me interested in hockey because these characters are hockey players and they're in their universities and you're like following their relationships. But the relationship that matters, especially for this prompt, is that of the love of my life, Dean Award De Laurentiis, who loves to have sex, loves to have a lot of it, and sees absolutely no shame in doing so. In fact, he's actually quite famous on campus for, a sexcapade, which is why when a rebound night of sex, drunken sex with his best friend's girlfriend's best friend, yes, it's confusing, I know, but Dean's best friend, right, has a girlfriend, and that girlfriend has her own best friend. And that best friend, who is Ali, by the way, has hot rebound sex with Dean, but they do agree that, okay, should not go forward anymore. So they first started as friends, and then there's the sexual tension. So they agreed to be sexual partners. Like, watching them progress from being friendly to the one night stand to being friends to being sexual partners to eventually arriving at a relationship was a beauty to read. Another beautiful thing to read was Dean's conversation with Ali about the use of the word slut and how it's society's way of shaming people who go in search of their own pleasure. Like I said, this book, epic. Absolutely epic. And still speaking of yet another epic book and yet another epic beloved character, I give to you The Fadeaway by Replica Jenshak, which is the second book in the Smart Jug series. Now, this is yet another new adult series, and I know a lot of people say there's a lot of similarities in it because these characters are also athletes, although in this case, unlike the hockey players in the off-campus series, the players in this are basketballers. But I still absolutely love this series. I still absolutely love this book. The Fadeaway is my absolute favorite book in this series, and it follows yet another favorite character, Joel Moreno. Joel is funny and sexy and smart and brilliant and a great friend and an amazing teammate and a fantastic, brilliant, great player. And by that, I mean that in both ways. I mean that he's phenomenal on the court, on the basketball court, but it's also phenomenal when it comes to, being with the ladies. He is quite popular for it. Joel is an unapologetic man whore. He embraces that. He embraces that part of his identity. He does not care because as long as his partners are all mutually consenting adults, he's perfectly fine. And in fact, he wears it with a badge of pride until he falls for working student, single mom, utter badass, and the love of my life, Katrina. And she refuses to give him the time of day. And this sets off a 6 months, yes, you heard that right, 6 months ritual of Joe showing up every Thursday, every single Thursday without fail to ask Katrina out on a date, to which she always says no matter how tempted she is. Like, it is brilliant, it is funny, it is hot, it is smoking, it is sexy, it is satisfying slow burn. Like, goddamn. The Fadeaway is good. The Fadeaway was good. So good. Now, even though I think that the ending was too rushed and there was not enough scheming and manipulation and killing as I expected in The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller, I would state that this book still fulfills the prompt. Now, the reason being that Alessandra is born in a time when it is that women's sexuality are curtailed. Like, men are given the freedom to pursue that, but not women. But Alessandra is not going to allow society dictate exactly how she finds her pleasure, and so she revolts against that. She has sex a lot in this book. In fact, that is what kicks off this book, because the boy she was fucking, who took her virginity, decided to dump her because he wanted to be with another girl, another virgin, and Alessandra did not cry, she did not weep, she just picked up a knife and stabbed him in the back, killed him, buried him somewhere else. And this is not a spoiler because this happens in the first page. Of course, we are told, it's not like we saw it happen. I wish we had seen it happen. That's another thing I had a problem with this book. But like, that a girl like that, right, who also decides that she wants power, right, and the way she's going to get that power is to marry this king that everybody's terrified of, kill him, and then take over his crown. A girl like that dances to the beat of her own drum and is a perfect embodiment of the women that would say, do you know what, fuck slut shaming, I'm going to find my pleasure where I want it, and I'm going to be perfectly fine with it. I repeat, I wanted to love this book so much, but then I went into it with very high expectations. So if you have this book on your shelves and you've been meaning to read it, I would say you can pick it up for this prompt. Just enter it with low expectations. So the only way you can go is up. Next is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, which is the first book in a Crescent City series. Now, I'm not going to lie, I am Sarah J. Maas trash. I am damn proud of it. I wear that statement as a badge of honor what does he say about my reading taste? Some people might be like, oh my God, Noria, your reading is shit if you love Sarah J. Maas. To you, my reading taste is shit to you. I'm a mess, but yes, I love Sarah J. Maas. And I know it's funny, why am I picking this book where, for the fuck, slut shaming prompts, when it is that these characters don't even have sex. Like, this book gave me the biggest case of blue balls in adult fantasy history, because I'm like, the fuck? But get this book, right, has Bryce Quinlan, love of my life. Now, this book has Bryce, and Bryce, even at the start of this book, is someone that loves to have sex. Like, when it was that something really devastating and tragic was happening, my girl was getting fucked at a club. And in fact, the event of that, had her being slut shamed by a larger public, but she refused to let that get her down. So, like, Bryce in herself fits this prompt to a T. Now, what is House of Earth and Blood about? If you've seen it and you're like, I have no interest, or the fuck? Okay. So House of Earth and Blood, follows Bryce, like I stated, who suffers a devastating tragedy and loses her friends in this horrific murder. Now, 3 years later, this murder happens again, which is surprising because she thought that the killer has been put behind bars. And so she has to team up with this really, really hot angel who controls lightning, because, lightning in a bottle also is hot, is really hot. Yeah, so she teams up with this really hot, really sexy angel to find the culprit and to bring them justice. And spoiler alert, she does. And it was fucking brilliant. Talk about going in a blaze of glory. If you've read the book, you understand what I mean. But if you've not, don't worry. Yeah, like I said, it's just, I love this book. I love Sarah J. Maas. And Bryce fits this prompt. A lot of Sarah J. Maas's characters do fit the oh fuck slut shaming prompt, but I didn't want to populate this list with Sarah J. Maas books. So I just picked the most recent, and I'm running with that. So yes, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas totally works for this prompt as well. Next on my list is Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. Now, I know this book isn't getting released until the 23rd. Like, my God, it's so far. The 23rd is so far. Wow. Now, I know this book is not getting released until the 23rd, but it absolutely has to make this list because our lead protagonist, Dani Brown, is a brilliant academic who realizes that a girl has needs, and doesn't mind having that need scratched, because, like I said, she has needs, and she's the second brown sister that would own my heart as soon as I can get my hands on that book, and I cannot wait. But like, this book has it all, right? It has it all. Fake dating / relationship, check. Friends with benefit will become so much more, check. A secretly romantic male character who seeks out to thaw the cynical heart of the female protagonist that he is falling in love with, double check. Like, seriously, what is not to love? How does this book not fit this prompt? It fits it to a T. To a T. Please, universe, if you're listening, if there's any way in which I can, like, I willingly offer up my appendix so I can get this book ASAP. Last I checked, I don't need that damn organ. Like, take my appendix, just take a hint, Dani Brown ASAP. Thank you. Next is Hate to Want You by Alishai. Now, this book has it all. It's a forbidden romance a la, Romeo and Juliet, with the feuding families who get in the way of the true love of our protagonist. It's also a childhood friends to lovers turn enemies turn lovers story. So, like, that is several layers of utter perfection, absolute perfection right there. Like, it checks boxes, multiple boxes, plural boxes. I mean, Livy and Nicholas were childhood sweethearts, right? Who were torn apart by the enmity that rose up amidst their family. And because they both recognize that they have needs and that they are utterly sexually compatible, these two characters agree to a yearly one-night stand date. So yes, once a year, every year, they have had this epic one night. Like, screw your brains out one night. Until Livy returns home for personal reasons and things get complicated, deliciously complicated. Like, this book is angsty and emotional and hot and sexy and smoking, and of course it makes this list. Of course it makes this list. It fits the prompt. It fits the prompt perfectly well. Then there's Lover Awakened by J.R. Ward. Oh my god. The Black Dagger Brotherhood is one of my absolute favorite paranormal series. Like, I absolutely love them. I've been reading them for years. I am very behind on the series. I totally need to catch up on it really soon. But like, yeah, gorgeous, hot, sexy vampires with voracious sexual appetites who have no shame in indulging because, you know, vampires and lots of desires. And oh my god, Lover Awakened is the third book in the series, which follows one of my absolute favorite characters in the series and one of my favorite vampires, Zadis. Zadis is a character I absolutely love, and watching him and Bella fall in love in this book was just absolutely beautiful. Seeing this wounded, tortured, scarred man find love and healing and life and acceptance, just it broke me. It broke me in the best of ways. God, I love this book. God, I miss the series. I should absolutely do a reread so that I can catch up. Like, oh my god. Yes, please, Lover Awakened. Yes, please. Then there's Delta of Venus by Anais, which we're talking about slut shaming and we've gone into some erotica novels, so it only makes sense that I bring in this classic erotica. I mean, you have Hungarian adventurers who are pulling off a love them, fuck them, and make away with all their wealth sexcapades. You have exotic Brazilian dancers. You have a veiled woman engaging in trysts with total strangers that she picks up from cheap restaurants. And then there's another woman losing herself to smoke and bliss and desire in opium dens in Peru. Like, I'm certain nobody's surprised that this book makes this list. And yeah, I definitely am interested in picking it up soon. Like, classic erotica. And there's Lost Girls 1 to 3 by Alan Moore and Melinda Gebbie. Yes, Alan Moore. Alan Moore, who gave us Watchmen, who gave us V for Vendetta, also gave us an erotic imagining of children fairy tales. Yes. So we have Alice from Alice in Wonderland, you have Dorothy from Wizard of Oz, and we have Wendy from Peter Pan, who are all reincarnated into modern women in a hotel, staying in a hotel in Austria, the eve before First World War broke out. And through them, we examine the sexual awakening of this otherwise sexless figures from fairy tales who are now all grown up and are currently exploring, experiencing, and indulging in sex. Like, lots of sex. Like, lots and lots of sex. This comic is basically porn, people. It's porn in comic form, and Alan Moore is really, really proud of this. He and his wife, like, they're really proud of the work they put together for this, because yeah, it's a comic that explores sexual fantasy. Now, blame this addition on my best friend, who loves to encourage me to pick and look for, you know, books that turn the everyday fairy tales on their heads, especially in a more sexual light. And I would state, like I said, I still have not read this yet. I plan on reading it, but I've seen some writings, I've seen some things around and warning for bestiality, because that's a thing in this book. And sex between minors. Like, Alan Moore and Melinda really gave us a kinky outpouring of sorts. So yes, there is that. But apparently it's really high quality comic porn. And there's Liaisons, Dangereuses. I cannot speak French. Sorry, people. Also known as Dangerous Liaison by Pierre Chodelaclos. I am so sorry. I am fairly certain I murdered that name. Apologies for that. But yeah. Okay. I don't know if this is a confession, but it might be. See, your girl fucks with Cruel Intentions, like really fucks hard with it. I'm talking about the first movie, of course, the one with Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillip, Reese Witherspoon, Selma Blair. That Cruel Intentions, like I fucks hard with that movie. I absolutely adored it. So when it was that I found out that it's a movie that is based off of a book, I went in search of the book, and it did not disappoint, not at all, not one bit. I mean, Vicomte de Overmont is your original fuckboy, like your OG fuckboy, fucking his way through France in this drawn out seduction of his ex-lover, the Marquise de Mathieu. Who delights in destroying other people's lives for the sake of entertainment, for the sake of sports, and using her own sexual appetite as a weapon at a time when Vermont could do whatever he pleased without any true repercussions, but she cannot because society would shame and ruin her. Her machinations are a way for her to say fuck you to such a patriarchal society, and I fucked hard with that. Like, I really sincerely, wholeheartedly do. Like, if you've not read this book, I recommend picking it up and being entertained. It's told in an epistolary format, so it's very interesting because you're reading all this back and forth through letters, and it's just entertaining. Absolutely you just feel like you're eavesdropping and listening in on their lives, on their conversations. It makes me very happy. So if you've not read it, you should pick it up, and then after that you can then proceed to watch Cruel Intentions. If this is your first time, good for you. If this is your 20th time, great for you, because that movie is good, except for the ending. Like, I was not a fan of that ending. Catherine, I was not a fan of that ending. But yeah, Dangerous Liaisons definitely makes this list. And there's Joplins Ghost by Tananarive Dew, which I would confess is a book I have not yet read, but my very good friends Jerry over at Onyx Pages, which by the way, if you're not subscribed, you should, because Jerry reads Black speculative fiction, and she is fucking brilliant and absolutely amazing. You should totally go check her out and subscribe. But Jerry is currently reading it, and she is loving it and enjoying it, and that just works for me. Also, the fact that sex is important in the main character's journey and eventually like saves her life just made it a book I absolutely had to add to the list. Plus, if it is that you love ghost stories, then you might just consider picking this up, because this is a ghost story. We follow a main character in the 21st century who is seemingly possessed by the ghost of Scott Joplin, who, if you don't know, Scott Joplin is one of those famous ragtime composer who unfortunately died destitute, but his music is out. It's your artist whose art was not recognized and celebrated when he was alive, and it's just heartbreaking. But this, like, she's possessed by Scott Joplin's ghost, right? And she is a classically trained musician who is about to have a big break, like really be super popular as an Arabian singer, but she's channeling Joplin, and it's very intriguing. It's very fascinating. Had to make my list, and that is definitely why I am. Yeah, Joplin's Ghost. Definitely Joplin's Ghost, everybody. Now, I have not hid it on my channel that I love the LJ Shen Sinners of Saints series. That is the only LJ Shen series I love, because I have read her other works. I have alternated between indifference of those stories and absolute hatred and detestment of those stories. So yes, there is that. But the Sinners of Saints would always hold a special place in my heart. They're my absolute favorite. And as much as I absolutely adore Baron Vicious Spencer, right? As much as I love Vicious, the book, for this list, I am going to go with Bane. Yes, Bane by LJ Shen. Roman Bane Potensko is an equal opportunity lover, and one who is quite famous in Todos Santos and has passed the goods around a lot, practically to everybody. But see, Bane is not just all about the fact that he enjoys fucking and he does it really well. He's also a loving son, an amazing friend, a strategic, brilliant business person, and also the person who has been hired to help Jessie slowly regain her life back, because see, Jessie was raped at the start of the book. which by the way, trigger warning for rape in this book, and rape, and also the rape of a child also in this book. Well, see, Jesse is broken at the start of this book, yes, but Bane as a book is a book that is about saving yourself, right? About you putting together the pieces of what makes you yourself. It's about being the hero of your own story, not being Snow White waiting for the prince to come and save you, but you saving yourself. It's about being able to rise to a brilliant, more resilient version of yourself. Like, I absolutely adore this book. I absolutely love this book. Also, when a book starts with the Pushkin quote, you know, the my whole life has been pledged to this meeting with you, you know that it's going to be smoking and romantic and heartbreaking, slow burn in the best of ways. Like, I absolutely adore this book. And there's Capture and Surrender by Alexander Voynov and L.A. Witt, which is the 5th book in the Market Garden series. Now, not to worry, you can read this book. You don't need to. You can start off this series with this book. You don't really need to read it from the beginning. But if you are, though, I would suggest reading book 1 and 2 together. Like, don't read book 2 before book 1, because book 1 and 2 follow one characters, like one set of couples. Then book 3 and 4 follow a separate set of couples, and then you have book 5, which is Capture and Surrender. And this is an office romance I fucks with and I really love, right? And it's a workplace romance with a spin. The spin being that the workplace in this case is a high-end brothel, like a high-class brothel. And the workplace romance is between Frank, who is the owner of the brothel and is currently desperately looking for a rent boy to replace one of his high-earning rent boys who has retired. You would know who if you read the previous book, but who has retired and is currently looking to fill in the slot. And in comes this ex-soldier who, you know, has the goods. And Frank is like, okay, you hot as fuck, but you're here to do a job, and I don't fuck like my staff, except for the fact that, Stefan is like, but I fucks with you though, and I don't follow rules anyway. I live to break that shit. So yeah, this definitely works with the fox shaming prompt. I mean, it's a brothel, and like it's between the owner of a brothel and one of the rent boys. So of course it works for this prompt. It absolutely works for this prompt. And then there's Crucial's Dart by Jacqueline Carey, which, I'm sorry, how can I make a list for the fuck slut shaming prompt and not mention Crucial's Dart? Like, Fadeaway is a woman who has been trained to be a courtesan and a spy, and she learns about, you know, communication during sex and exactly what pleases her, what brings pleasure to her body, how she can bring pleasure to others. And it is in this woman's hands that rests the fate of the world, of her world. Like, she is strategically positioned to be the one to save her world. And a lot of the times when we're reading fantasy books, a lot of fantasy books, you know, they rarely have a prostitute who was trained in the art of being the perfect submissive, you know, who also works as a spy with the brilliant, deductive, highly inquisitive, observant, and analytical mind of a spy. You know, you rarely have a woman with those skill sets being the one to save the world. But you do in Crucial's Dart. And that's why this book makes the list. And finally, the last book on this list, 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. I cannot believe I'm adding this book to this list. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I like this book. I don't. And like, I read this book, the first time I read this when this was still Twilight fanfiction on fanfiction.net. Like, I read this about 12, 13 years ago when it was on fanfiction.net. And then when I had a colleague like come meet me like almost 5 years after, I was like, yo, this book, 50 Shades of Grey, I read, I'm like, hold up. This book looks familiar, it sounds familiar. I've read this book, holy shit, it's still utterly complete garbage. But I have a lot of colleagues and a lot of acquaintances and a couple of friends who actually do love this book. And say what you will about it, it kind of did kick off a second wave of women openly reading erotica in public and them not being ashamed of the type of literature that they consume, reading about a character who discovers the world of BDSM and vanilla sex and who realizes that she enjoys it, like enjoys it a lot. Now, am I saying that 50 Shades of Grey is in any way a representation of amazing BDSM literature? Hell no. I have read way better BDSM books which, you know, better represent the community and are not as populated with the many flaws that this book has. However, if you want a wish fulfillment fantasy of a hot billionaire introducing you to the world of BDSM through the eyes of a girl who is purposefully bland so that you can self-insert yourself into the story and take her place, then yeah, you might consider reading 50 Shades of Grey. Like, if anything, so that when, you know, conversation arises about how this book is utterly complete garbage, you'll be able to either contribute to it and be like, I agree, or say no, and I've read it and this is why I think it's amazing. But yeah, that is going to be the last recommendation. I'm so sorry that I'm wrapping this up with 50 Shades of Grey. Like, I don't like it, but I know that there are some people that like it. I respect their rights to like a book that I'm not a fan of. But yeah, that is the end of this video. Following the unanimous, like not unanimous, but the largely supported, you know, decision that I share my Patreon. I have linked my Patreon link down in the description bar below. You can please support me. Please do not feel like you have to. Like I stated in the last video, you watching my video, you liking, you subscribing, you sharing is support in itself, and I do appreciate it. But if you do want to support me and if you do want to become a patron, my link is down in the description bar below. Shout out to Pune, Daniela, and Maddie so far. Like, you all are already my patrons. I'm still the fact that there are people that are clicking on this link, I'm like, especially in this time, I'm awed, I'm floored, my mind is still blown. Thank you, everybody. But yeah, that is this video. If you liked it, please do not forget to give it a big thumbs up. Check out my other videos. I'm going to still be making more recommendations videos, so keep an eye out for that, because my plan is to have all of them done by next week, Friday or Sunday, you know, just in time before the Fuckathon kicks off in July. I am going to leave in the description bar as well the link to the Google Docs so that you can see all the recommendations, all the books I've listed, because I don't mention all the books in these videos. I always only choose 20, but for a more exhaustive list, you can check out that Google Docs. I definitely am interested in seeing your TBR when you start putting them together. I also have in my description bar as well, you know, links that pertain to, you know, the Black Lives Movement, and of course the Black Trans Women Fund as well. Everything is going to be down in the description bar below, so you can donate. You can donate, you can sign petitions, you can make calls, whichever is in your power to do. You can stream like YouTube playlists whereby the creators have already said that all proceeds and all the monies they make will go to the Black Lives Matter Fund. So yeah, there are different ways in which we can all do our parts to help with this protest, to help with this present conversations being had. And that is this video. I make new videos every Wednesdays and Saturdays, except for the next 2 weeks where I'm going to be doing 3 videos a week and my upload schedule is going to be all over the place. But yeah, I make new videos every Wednesdays and Saturdays, so subscribe if you want to, and click on the notification bell so you can know the minute I have a new video go up, because I'll be making a couple of videos this week that are not limited to my 2 videos. But yeah, I will see you soon. Until then, stay passionate, love books, love yourself. Bye.